Hello, this is Katy Huff from Katy Huff Ministries, and we are here today while you are listening to Setting Yourself Free, a podcast where we are encouraging, empowering, and wanting everyone to walk out the calling and purpose in their life by setting themselves free from whatever that may be. This is our episode 2, and we're excited to have our special guest, Susan Marie Almquist from Oregon, who is going to be able to share with you her testimony of what she has been able to set herself free from. And so I'm just grateful and thankful to have this amazing guest, someone who I've known for 20 plus years and have seen just amazing things in her life. So I'll turn it over to you, Miss Susan Marie Almquist, and you can tell us, so what are you setting yourself free from?
Wow, Katy, thank you so much for having me on. It's really, it's an honor. And I think what you're doing with this podcast is it's really special, especially because of the question that you're putting forth about what have you set yourself free from? Because there aren't too many contexts where we get the opportunity to reflect on that, to reflect on the ways in which we've been imprisoned, or like not free in our lives. And so I'm grateful for that opportunity to reflect on that. And it's an interesting thing because it might sound like, if in a different context, that it was a positive thing. So for example, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is really the kind of the heaviness of my father in my life. And even though he is a wonderful man and has also been a mentor to me in so many ways, but he was an attorney. He's retired now, and I kind of followed in his footsteps and became an attorney. But there was a lot of kind of expectations that came with that, some spoken and some not spoken, and really even just this almost like an level of expectation of achievement at all costs, and that can take a toll. So while I don't think that achievement is a bad thing, and I think it's actually part of my DNA to this point in life, but the freedom to be able to own it myself and not have it be this thing that's imposed on me from my father has probably been one of the most defining shifts in my life, and freed me up to better express myself. It's what has allowed me, I think, to have the success that I've had now in my life, and to have the partner that I have now in my life, and to be looking to write a book in my life, because so it gave me something to bump up against. And maybe that's, that in and of itself is not a bad thing. I know that, as a kid, it was just crazy, the things that I can remember being grounded one time because I didn't get all A's. Like what talk about not having freedom for just achievement. And that might seem like, in the great scheme of things, for people like an insignificant thing, but it felt like there's no way I was going to be able to be myself. And there's no way that with that level of expectation that anybody could live up to that, frankly. And it came to the point where I was called names and things that, he didn't even realize he was doing that. But I needed to be able to break free from that. And I could talk a little bit about, I know you had asked me about some of the events in my life that kind of led through that. If you want, I could speak to that.
That'd be great to kind of like share the sequence of events that that you went through that was helpful to set you free.
Well, I think I had an awareness, as a very young child. I've got my journals. Actually, I just reclaimed my journals recently. My parents had sent me back a big box of stuff from my childhood. And it was a time, there were times in my life because my father was considering suicide, and just like had written in this journal about that because of this pressure that I felt like I could never be good enough. And part of what had to happen for me is to physically get far away. So I think sometimes that's, that freedom, like literally we have to put ourselves in a different place physically to give ourselves some space from, the that imprisonment, so to speak. And so my family they had moved west at one point in time, and then they went back east, which is where I'm from originally. And I stayed out west, and I've stayed out west the rest of my life since then. So that was, I was probably 18 years old when they moved back. And I think that distance actually was so important for me to make that choice. And there's times where that's hard. Now I'm older and have a family, and you want to have some closeness with them. My parents are getting older, and there's been some healing, but the healing has really come from that distance, because I needed to be able to just really be able to get quiet, be able to know, as you've asked about God in my own way. I was raised Roman Catholic, which has a real, I think, sense of kind of heaviness about it that's not unlike what I'm describing with my father, for me anyway. It's just a lot of dogma that I felt like kept me from God, ironically. And I needed to be able to have the space in my life to be able to just get to know God on my terms. Because so today I feel like I can get quiet. I can speak directly to God and get guidance in my life and making the decisions, whether it's for my family or for my career or my health, like in every arena of my life. And in some ways, maybe I have my dad to thank for that. And that's kind of that weird thing, that which can set us free, else like our lightness is best seen because of the contrast, right, to the darkness. I mean, because it was never at a level of like abuse or that, but I don't know, maybe arguably people would say on some level psychological, but this is just my own personal journey. And maybe some of you can relate to that. And I think it's not uncommon actually for achievers to have had this like burden of and as women, this burden of this pressure of kind of achievement. And then the flip side of the criticism of almost being like bossy and not a good person. Like, so that all of that, being able to break away and find the goodness in that, find my voice, be able to have that connection in life has really, it's totally transformed my life. And now I'm just so great. I feel so free with I just hope from my father and my mother, nothing but great joy in their days and their lives. And my well-being doesn't have to be tied to the expectations the way they were earlier in my life. And I feel like it's manifested today in lots of interesting ways.
Well, that's a lot. And I guess I would say that setting boundaries, safe boundaries, your boundary was to stay on the West Coast, to be able to be set free, to know that your achievement level expectation from your father is not grounded in who you are as a human being and as a person that has strived and has thrived in everything that you've done without probably the pressure because of the distance and the boundary that you've set. And when it comes to faith, obviously, I'm so grateful to hear you say that it's allowed you to have the conversation with God without having to feel like you have to be in a church or a specific denomination, because God is ever with us. He wants nothing but the best for you, and he knows the plan he has for you. And that was obviously to move to the West Coast and to set yourself free, and that he'll always love you unconditionally. This is God will always love you unconditionally. And none of us are perfect and we all make mistakes, but the blessing is that we learn from those mistakes. And I'm not saying you made a mistake. I'm saying maybe that's the mistake that your father may have done by putting the pressure on you for the achievement. But, there's forgiveness and grace in all of this, and distance and time heals. And so I'm grateful and thankful that you are willing to share what you've been set free from. And obviously, I don't know if you know what those sequence of events were in regards to being set free, that you have that aha moment, or can you share something with that?
Yeah, I don't know that I can put my finger on any one particular instance. There's been some body image things that happened with my father too, because he had suggested that I have a surgery to alter my body at one point in time, and I had that done, and a breast reduction surgery. And later in my life, feel like that was something that, looking back, I'm not sure I would have done on my own. And there was a turning point that came around that, and some kind of going back and doing some research myself around the procedure and the records and all of that. And that there was a turning point in that, but I think it's been more gradual for me. To tell you the truth, it was a certain thing during my 20s. I think it started mainly with the geographic distance, and then through my 30s and beyond, and starting to have kids, has really been another opportunity then to see if I can apply that freedom to pass on to them. And boy, that's an ongoing thing, as you just talked about boundaries and how important that is. Boy, when you parent, it's another thing that's so valuable. And I've been reflecting just the past couple days, actually, in some of my quiet time, on encouragement and praise, and how to do, because I think during the time that I started parenting, I was kind of reacting to the way I had been raised and wanted to do a lot of praise and encouragement. And I'm not sure if I always did it right, but hindsight's always 20/20. But I feel like I'm actually, because I want to make sure that that is done where I'm encouraging the activity or the action that's being taken, and not necessarily the person. Like, you are good, you are a good person. Like, yes, in God's eyes, but I think that praise can get a little tricky in our kids because that's what happened to me. Right? You feel like you're not a good person or bad person, when in fact there's so many other ways to feed that. So I've been reflecting on that just here recently, and I think that I learned then from my kids too. It becomes, as I learned from my parents or reacted to that, then I had my own kids, and then now I learn from them too. I've got, as I said, two of my own daughters, and they've got my one daughter in particular has taught me a lot about boundaries recently. She's got very clear boundaries, and it helps me to reflect back on my own. So it's a bit of a life evolution is what I found. And I'm grateful for the chance to pause. I think when we pause, it makes us more conscious in our lives, and we're able to make better decisions because of that consciousness. And I think your podcast and this whole conversation that you're having with people is an opportunity to do that.
Right. Thank you. Well, I would say this is that the blessing of God's love for us is it's not in what we do. It's not about the activity. It's not about the achievement. It's not what we do, but it is the who we become. And I'm pretty sure you're familiar with let's stick with the who versus the do, and some of the things that we've done together. And so I would just say that thank God for his grace, his patience, his kindness, his love that's unconditional, and that he'll never leave us, because his plan for us is perfect. And that is the beauty of resting and not focusing on the achievement, but just resting in knowing that it's all for a reason and the timing is always perfect. And so I would ask you if you have any specific advice to someone who may be going through a similar situation where they're feeling like the achievement to make this other person happy is not necessarily in their best interest because of God's plan for them versus an individual's plan for your life.
Yeah, I think it's good to get distance, even if it's not physical distance, to get distance from the situation by reflecting, by praying, by meditating, doing that, because that can give you distance too. And that distance gives you the space to be free and to figure out if there's steps that need to be taken in your life beyond that. And I know that one of the outlooks that I'm writing about right now in my book, for example, is really how we do anything is how we do everything. And you can have a particular outlook on every step of your life that can totally change the outcome of that, whether it's sharing lunch with your spouse, which I'm about to do right now, whether it's something perfectly mundane or something much bigger, that with a shift in your outlook, which is really what you're asking about, this feeling of freedom, will totally change your life. And I hope for that for everybody, actually, because you can either just have lunch or you can have lunch in a way that's conscious and a moment that can be a special thing in your day. And so I guess that's what I would hope for everybody. They give themselves enough space to come to that awareness for themselves. I look forward to continuing this conversation with you and the rest of our lives, Katy, because we've shared some amazing benchmarks in our life, and look forward to a lot more to come.
Yes, we have. We've hit milestones together on the same day, which was a miracle in itself. And I believe God's hand was in on that, because we would work together. For those that are listening, we work together and talk to each other every day, holding each other up and encouraging and holding each other accountable. And we hit a milestone that is the first ever in the 50-year company that we have belonged to for over the last 23 years. And that was unheard of, but because of our commitment to each other's success, each other's achievements, we were able to hit that milestone, which is a wonderful thing. But even to the achievement of having a peaceful, wonderful lunch with your husband is an achievement that is filled with so much joy and love and the heart thing versus the trophy that we have on the mantle. So those things are beautiful, and setting yourself free from that is absolutely a beautiful thing to experience and to watch as you continually grow and walk out your purpose and passion and calling on your life. It's been a blessing for me to come beside you as a business person, but also more importantly, as someone who is my dear friend and sister. And we've come a long way, baby, is what I would say. So this is what I would say is that Miss Susan Marie Almquist, for all of you that are listening, is in the process of writing a book, and we'll be having her back on the podcast when she has that completed. And we just thank you for being here, that we hope that this was inspiring for you to know where to start to begin to set yourself free from whatever it is that is holding you back in being, doing, and having all that God has created you to be. And so with that, I would say thanks for listening. Thank you, Susan Marie. This has been a blessing for me and hopefully for everybody else, to our episode of Setting Yourself Free. Until next time, please go to www.katy-huff.com to learn more about my book, coaching, courses, and retreats. Follow Katy Huff Ministries on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more encouragement, and stay up to date on all things happening with Katy Huff Ministries. Thank you again for this and for participating in Setting Yourself Free. With that, this is Katy Huff saying good day.
Hello, friends and family. This is Katy Huff with Katy Huff Ministries. The reason that I'm reaching out to you today is because I have had the incredible experience of using the MyPillow products. So what products are there? There's the pillow, of course. There's the sheets. There's the towels. And in fact, my puppy even has a dog bed. So I'm reaching out to you because I have the opportunity to help you to save a lot of money when you find these products to be such use for you and your family. So you can go to mystore.com/unmasked is my promo code. So you're going to want to use my promo code to get those discounts, or mypillow.com/unmasked. That way you're going to get an incredible discount. You're going to enjoy the sheets, the pillows, the towels, and hopefully your little pet will enjoy the dog bed as well. Thank you.